Strucker Panda. Hail
That's
Hydra.
it. There we go. Hey everybody, and welcome to the Black Party, where we go over everything nerd stuff and nerd related and weeb stuff and stuff. I'm Captain Zeus. This fine gentleman here is
Relatable Panda.
it's Panda. And
Panda.
we're going to be going over the Easter eggs and some details you might have missed in the third episode of WandaVision. For anyone that hasn't seen it, spoiler warning. Spoiler. So if you haven't seen the episode, go watch it, then watch this and see what you may have missed. But
Tell us what you think.
Tell us what you think, but we'll get into that later. Panda, go ahead and take it away with the first half.
Yep. So in the first half, we have, of course, the intro. That is, again, showing constant hexagons throughout the entirety of the last three episodes. Intros included. The intro is actually modeled off of the Brady Bunch. Theme music for the intro is actually based on the Partridge Family, the first rendition of it, not the second rendition. Within the intro, we see a multitude of different clips that have Easter egg-esque hidden meanings. For the first one, we have Wanda reading the Glamorous magazine, which shows a woman wearing a bathing suit similar to her skimpier costumes. In the intro, we also see Vision riding past the theater, showing the marquee for Oz the Great and Powerful, which is actually a 2013 movie. Certainly does not belong in a 70s sitcom. But it could be a possible reference to everything being smoke and mirrors in this town of Westview. Again, in the intro, we see the playset that Vision reluctantly reads the instructions on, and it's actually the color scheme of the original costume in the comics. We will see that a little bit later on in the series as well. After that, we go a conversation happening between Vision and the Doctor here, where the Doctor references that he's going to Bermuda with his wife for a vacation. The reason that's kind of significant is the Bermuda Triangle. And for those who may not are like scratching their heads, like, why is that a thing? Like, the Bermuda Triangle has a nickname of being the Devil's Triangle because of all the mysterious things that disappear in that. And if you've seen our previous episodes,
Mephisto.
Put two and two together there. Then we jump into a pregnancy book that Vision is reading. This one is actually also in the intro. We see it's called The Pregnancy Book. It was written by Arthur and Libby Coleman. It was published in 1973, and the reason that is significant is because we see the book in a very worn out, tethered state. And with this episode taking place in the 70s, probably mid to late 70s, based on the time that this book was published, it should not be that tethered and worn out already. Then we go to Wanda and Vision painting the nursery with Simser paint. And that is a very good nod to the storyboard artist that has worked on WandaVision amongst a good handful of other MCU films. Afterwards, we see Wanda and Vision talking, and we get a Shakespeare quote, which is, "All the world's a stage, all the men and women merely players." That comes from Shakespeare's 7 Ages of Man monologue. And that could be suggesting that Vision senses that the people are performing their roles in the town. I mean, the full quote continues on to say that they have their exits and their entrances. I mean, we've already seen Vision's boss kind of enter and then exit
And not seen
after
again.
episode 1, and he hasn't been seen again. So then we jump to Dottie's house and her husband reading a newspaper that has the headline of 2 fire hydrants have been added to Main Street. But if you look closely, the newspaper is actually crinkled to highlight Hydra. At about the 7-minute 54-second mark, Wanda and Vision get startled, and they go into this fighting stance that is actually referencing the Vision and Scarlet Witch #1 comic. Then we see Vision kind of come in and be a little startled and scared, and he tells Wanda that, you know, it's very uncertain and something weird is going on, essentially. And then Wanda blinks and there's a glitch in the Matrix.
Yes, I know what you mean.
And then we get a new quote from Vision.
The truth is, we are in uncharted waters. And you know what? I'm anxious to.
We just don't know what to expect.
You know?
And then we get our commercial of the episode.
That's part of the episode.
These commercials will be a constant, as just like the hexagons. We get the commercial for Hydra Soak, which is a funny and great callback to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. with Coulson having the whole theory that everybody is being brainwashed by soap that Hydra has made.
The blue soap.
To which his one-liner is, I make my own soap now. That we see is the quote, find the goddess within, which is a nod to Strucker calling Wanda a goddess in Age of Ultron when we first see them. Now, it concludes the first half of the episode.
So yeah, on the second half of this episode, there's two things that kind of constantly pop up throughout the episode. One is Billy and Tommy. Their names, they're talked about it in the episode, trying to name the kids that. It's a reference, obviously, as we've mentioned previously, to the two kids that Wanda does have in the comics who end up being Speed and Wiccan. A little tidbit, Speed basically has the same powers Quicksilver has, and Wiccan has the same powers Wanda has in the sense of altering reality, magic, that kind of stuff. So that's a little something to add into there. And then the other thing is Wanda's pregnancy progress. Now, this is a callback to basically the most hated Marvel comic out there. It's Avengers 200, where Carol Danvers goes through basically the exact same process, where she gets pregnant, it's super fast, gives birth, yada, yada, yada. No one likes the comic, but it's essentially kind of what the reference and callback was for. Now, later on in the episode, you see Agnes over by Herb and Vision outside. Now, you notice her pendant. This pendant looks to be 3 figures with either a scythe / marionette, depending on how you look at it. And these could be references to 3 possible things. One, it could be a Macbeth reference to whose prophecy to steer the main character to his doom, which is more likely because Agnes is like the best friend of Wanda in the comics, who just works for Mephisto, which seems to be the theme in this series. So that is the most likely theory out there. The second one is a Weird Sisters reference to who are Quasar villains working for Maelstrom. The most likeliest of scenarios there. And the third one is it's possibly a marionette, with Mephisto puppeteering the twins.
Yep.
So that's also a possibility as well. You guys can let us know which one of those you think it is in the comments below. Now, in this same episode, kind of almost same sequence, you see Monica. She pops in and she's talking to Wanda. She's like, hey, girl, how you doing? You can notice her outfit, one, doesn't change this whole episode. Its color scheme is blue and white, and it has a bunch of Starburst type designs all over it, which is a little homage to her hero costume, which is pretty cool there, since we kind of already know that she's going to take on that role some way, shape, or form in the MCU. As the episode progresses, Wanda gives birth. She has the 2 twins. They name them, yada, yada, yada. And she talks about how she's a twin, and her twin was Pietro, and they were super close, yada, yada, yada. And Monica's like, didn't he die by Ultron? Age of Ultron, obviously, we know that Quicksilver dies. He gets shot up trying to save some people. After that movie, his death, or him in general, is not mentioned at all. This was the first time this has been mentioned in quite a good amount of years. And Wanda notices this and obviously tries to suppress this and was like, how you know this? No one else knows anything about me or my past. You shouldn't know this. Which, as a civilian, you really shouldn't know this, because no one else outside of the Avengers and S.H.I.E.L.D., maybe, it should be the higher-ups of S.H.I.E.L.D., would know about his death, because they try to keep it under wraps. And as she's interrogating her, you notice Monica has a sword pendant on. So that's kind of something there, being like, hey, you have a sword pendant. What's up with that? We notice swords, obviously a big theme going out through the episode, just like Hydra is. We've referenced how swords possibly the next evolution of S.H.I.E.L.D. You can go into our theories and Easter egg video previously, which will be somewhere on the screen. She proceeds to launch her out of the sky off screen when Vision comes in and asks where she's at. As she's being launched out, you see Westview, like a sign on it, to note that, one, it's an actual place. This isn't like just some fake location. Now, the slogan on it says, home is where it's where you make it, which is a possible House of M reference to her literally rewriting history to her needs. So those are the Easter eggs, the big old Easter eggs that we found. Some details you might have missed throughout this episode, though, is a couple of things. Herb uses the same finger gun motion to Vision like Agnes did to the mailman. That could mean something, that could not. It's just kind of something you may have just looked over. Geraldine, who's also Monica, is referenced through Agnes. Agnes mentions that she doesn't have friends or family there, which is like, yeah.
Doesn't have a home.
Or doesn't have a home. Basically,
this is important.
Yes. It could refer to, one, that she's a sword agent, undercover. You know, that's obvious. Or two, she's not who she actually is. Could possibly be a third party. To who?
Now,
don't know. True. So. Now, as Panda mentioned earlier, the commercials are something that will be happening throughout the entire series. It does seem to showcase Wanda's fears throughout her life. First, it was the Starks, and the explosion that was happening to her and Pietro when they were kids. Then with Hydra, especially since they were experimenting on them and essentially didn't do the greatest of treatments towards them. So there is those references that happen. It could be more that will become in depth. We don't know how these commercials will play out, but they basically showcase her fears throughout her life. Mm-hmm. Now, in this episode, Wanda does use fruit to hide her pregnancy. That's a little homage to actresses doing the exact same thing back in the day with all those sitcoms. That was the best way to hide the pregnancy, was be holding like a basket of fruit or some kind of large melon or something of the sort. Mm-hmm. Now, towards the end of the episode, the reality bubble, which surrounds this city, as you notice, it's not in Wanda's signature red color. It's blue, which could be implying this is someone else's doing, and it's not actually Wanda who's in control of this reality or dimension. It's a third party, which is kind of obvious because we don't really think that she would be doing this willingly. And it is confirmed that this takes place directly after Endgame. So, who knows? Is it Mephisto? Is it somebody else we're completely missing? It's a great thing to point out. The showrunner for the series says a lot of theories out there are basically how the series is. Some of the theories out here is confirmed. Some are silly, so we have to find out on that.
Now, some of the other details that might have been missed is the lullaby that Wanda does sing to the kids. If you watch it with the Portuguese subtitles on, you can actually get the translated version of said lullaby, which we do have here. And the lullaby breaks down to, I waited for you, and this day has come. My heart became a home, full of light, full of light. Now, that could also be a nod to Monica's superhero persona, Photon.
Possibly.
And we do see that being sung in Sokovian, which is another callback to Wanda's Sokovian background. We also do hear the accent come back when she mentions Pietro's name. We see that come back. Another thing to kind of note is Herb was severely glitching this entire episode.
Pretty bad.
I mean, it doesn't take a genius to know that, you're using hedge trimmers. You should probably stop at a brick wall. Another thing that was kind of missed is the Agnes telling Herb to kind of stop it when he's about to mention something really big to Vision. And she almost looks kind of scared. But
yeah, pretty scared.
I mean, I don't know.
There's a lot of things that we may have missed. There's a lot of things that we basically probably covered. We probably got the whole episode covered there. Let us know in the comments if we missed anything or your thoughts on the whole shebang of Easter eggs that we spilled out for you guys. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. We'll try to do this as often as we can with every WandaVision episode out there, so that way you guys can know the juiciness that is in this series. I'm Captain Zeus. That is Relatable Panda, and thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you guys in the next video. See ya.
Peace.